A plate of wings slams down on the table mid-party and nobody's bothered to grab a fork. No one cares about manners, or utensils for that matter. That's the proper etiquette for a plate of buffalo wings. You, being the intellectual that you are, start contemplating the name, buffalo wings. You ignore the silly image of a buffalo having wings and notice that there's no buffalo anywhere on that plate. It's chicken. The name is basically an impossibility at face value, and somehow we all just accepted it. So, how did that happen? How did one very specific part of a chicken end up named after a completely different animal? It's kind of a complicated story, so brace yourself. This isn't really just about food, it's about geography, anatomy, economics, chemistry, and the weird way language quietly drifts away from the thing it was supposed to describe. Here's your first clue to the answer. Buffalo isn't even an animal in this context. Here's something most people don't realize. A real buffalo wing isn't just a wing with some hot sauce dumped on it. It's a specific cut and a specific preparation. Biologically, a chicken wing has 3 sections. The drumette, built around the humerus, the flat, also called the wingette, built around the radius and ulna, and the tip, made up of the carpus and metacarpus. That anatomy actually matters here. The classic buffalo wing focuses on the 2 edible sections people actually want to eat, the drumette and the flat. Then comes the cooking, and this is where people get it wrong all the time. A proper buffalo wing is unbreaded, deep fried, then coated in an emulsion made from vinegar-based cayenne hot sauce and fat, usually butter or margarine, which raises a fun question. If the dish is this specific, did someone invent it in one brilliant moment, or did it crawl out of something older and messier? But to get to the messy history behind this food, the strange name needs to be tackled first. Buffalo wings are named after Buffalo, New York, not the large-horned mammal, the city in upstate New York. The name is geographic, the same way certain foods get attached to places rather than ingredients. Once you know that, the whole thing stops sounding weird and starts sounding historical. And speaking of history, this city got permanently attached to this food for a reason. Here's the thing. Chicken wings were already a food long before Buffalo made them famous. There's documentation of fried chicken wings at the Clarendon Hotel going back to 1857. Wing recipes were showing up in the Buffalo Commercial Advertiser by 1894, so wings weren't invented out of thin air. Then Buffalo's own wing culture started taking shape. A key figure is John Young, who opened Wings and Things somewhere around 1961 to 1963 and was advertising wings in the 1966 phone book. His version was whole breaded wings with mumbo sauce. Notice that detail. Breaded. That's different from the classic formula everyone knows today. So where did that classic formula come from? The most serious attempt to answer that question came from New Yorker writer Calvin Trillin, who went looking for answers in 1980. What he found was 2 stories. Both pointed to Teresa Bellissimo, the woman behind the Anchor Bar, and both involved a Friday night in 1964 going slightly sideways. Her husband Frank's version involved a delivery mix-up. Chicken wings arrived instead of the next family normally threw into their spaghetti sauce. Waste not, want not. Frank asked Teresa to do something with them, and she made history. Their son Dominic told a different version of the story. Some regulars had been spending generously that night, and Dominic wanted to reward them with something special at midnight. Teresa grabbed the wings, which were part of the bird so overlooked at the time that most people wouldn't even bother serving it to bar patrons, and she improvised. What Frank and Dominic both agreed on was that Teresa cut each wing into 2 pieces, a drumstick and a flat, fried them without breading, tossed them in hot sauce, served them with celery and blue cheese dressing, and within weeks, the whole city was eating them. By July 29th, 1977, the culture was official. Mayor Stan Mikowski proclaimed it Chicken Wing Day. At that point, wings weren't just a food in Buffalo, they were civic identity. But here's the thing that still doesn't quite add up. If wings had been around for over a century, why did they suddenly go everywhere? For most of history, wings were just kind of there. Not the star of the chicken, not worthless, but just not the part anyone was excited about. Then the poultry market shifted underneath them. During the 1980s, consumer demand started heavily favoring breast meat. That single shift changed how the entire bird was valued economically. Suddenly, a part that had been treated like a secondary cut could be repositioned entirely. Restaurants figured something out. The wing could become the main event. What had been low value became premium. What had been overlooked became the thing people specifically showed up for. It's one of the strangest reversals in food history. A neglected cut gets fashionable, demand flips, and value follows it up the ladder. Buffalo wings are maybe the perfect example of that whole pattern, but economics alone doesn't explain why people are obsessed with them, because wings aren't just popular. People crave them. And the reason for that is basically engineering. Buffalo wings work because every single component pushes the experience in a different direction, all at the same time. Start with frying. Deep frying creates that crisp exterior and concentrates the savory flavor in the meat. Already, you're working with something with real texture and depth. Then the sauce shows up. But buffalo sauce isn't just hot sauce. It's an emulsion of vinegar-based cayenne hot sauce and fat, usually butter. That combination changes how the heat behaves. The fat spreads the spice across your palate. The vinegar sharpens it. The cayenne brings the actual burn. And underneath all that is the wing itself, which is naturally richer than breast meat. According to USDA nutrition data, wings with skin come in around 290 calories per 100 grams versus about 165 for breast meat. So the whole experience stacks: crispness, fat, acid, heat, all hitting at once in balance. But the strangest part is the burn, because people don't avoid it, they seek it out. Part of what makes buffalo wings so addictive ties back to something psychologists call benign masochism, a term associated with psychologist Paul Rosen. It describes situations where people genuinely enjoy sensations that would normally feel unpleasant, as long as they know they're safe. That's why spicy food, roller coasters, and horror movies are all enjoyable experiences to some people. The heat in buffalo wings comes from capsaicin, the compound in chili peppers that triggers a pain response. But in a safe setting, that discomfort flips into fun. Capsaicin is linked to reward responses in the body: dopamine, endorphins, the whole chemical party. So eating wings becomes a controlled thrill, like a tiny edible dare. That's why they show up everywhere people gather: sports nights, parties, eating contests, and even popular YouTube shows. The heat becomes entertainment. People compare sauces, test their tolerance, reach for another wing while the last one is still burning. And then modern food culture comes in and bends the whole thing sideways, because today the name survives even when the actual wing doesn't. Buffalo wing no longer always means an actual wing. Under USDA policy, the spelling WYNGZ for wings can legally appear on products that contain no wing meat at all. The altered spelling is a signal. It means you're getting an experience, not an anatomical wing. And it goes further. In 2023, a federal judge ruled that Buffalo Wild Wings could use the term boneless wings, even though the product is made from breast meat. So the phrase doesn't always refer to anatomy anymore. Sometimes it's a flavor profile. Sometimes it's a preparation style. Sometimes it's just a vibe, a category of food that feels like wings without technically being wings. People are often buying the idea of a wing now, not the wing itself. And that's the thing about a name this powerful. It stops being about the food and starts being about the idea. So, why are buffalo wings called buffalo wings if they're chicken? Because buffalo was never the animal, it was the place. Buffalo, New York became the geographic anchor for a style of wing that grew so far beyond its origins that even the wing itself became optional. And along the way, the dish picked up layers, a place name, a piece of anatomy. A low-value cut transformed into a premium food, a carefully balanced system of fat, acid, heat, and crispness, a psychological thrill built on safe discomfort, and eventually a name powerful enough to survive even when the original wing disappears entirely. So the next time a plate of wings lands on the table, don't overthink them, just eat them. But now you know.